Hi, how are you? Mark McGuinness. Look, just wanted to run through a strategy today that a lot of my clients find to be super successful and really easy to implement. And it's basically, what do we do to restart those stalled conversations? So imagine you've been talking to a customer or a potential customer prospect for a while. You've probably swapped some details. Maybe you've been to a meeting or two. You've had some good dialogue, and then all of a sudden communication has just slowed down. It's just stopped. Now, I'm sure if you're like me, this has happened to you quite a few times. And what I've discovered is a great way to be able to get those conversations restarted. Not only restarted, but basically the prospect comes back to you and tells you exactly what's going on in their life, what's stopping them from moving forward. So this strategy, there's versions of this floating around. This is the one that I use. This is the one that I train. I've seen this from a couple of other people. Chris Voss, who's the FBI negotiator, John Barrows, and a few other guys have got similar versions to this. I'm not exactly sure where I got this from. If I got this from you, then just want to put my hand up and say thanks very much. But if not, implement this and you'll definitely be able to use it. So at a really high level, if you've been communicating backwards and forwards and you've got to the point now where the clients are starting responding, so potentially you've sent them a proposal, you've worked together on developing what it is that you think is going to be successful, and then you're starting emailing to catch up, and you're trying to organise that last meeting. Maybe you need them to sign off on the documentation. It's getting down to brass tacks and people just aren't responding. What I found is this works really well, and that is you just reply to the last email that you sent them, so and they didn't reply, so just reply to that, and all you say is, Josh, have you given up on this project? And this has got a significantly high response rate. And I think that's because if people have been working with you and they've invested time and essentially money and even resources into trying to figure out what's going on, what might be business, what it might be like if they employ you, then that fear of losing all that work makes them respond. And typically what I see is the response from people says something like, hey Mark, look, we're just really struggling with getting the budget approved at this point, or hey Mark, I've just had my VP of sales leave, and as a result, we've got to put this on ice for a couple of weeks, but I can come back to you. And what I find is nearly always everybody responds and they provide the real reason why that's being bogged down, and gives us an opportunity to restart that communication and have a very clear understanding about where they could be or they should be moving forward in our pipeline. But there's a couple of things that we need to understand. And that is that the prospect, in order for this to work, the prospect really must have engaged and provided some data and put some effort and some energy into this, okay? This won't work if it's a cold email. So if you're sending out, outreach to people and they're not responding, and they've not responded at all, they haven't sat down with you and spent some time working on the project, then you're sending this is not going to work. And I would also say use this quite sparingly. So don't overplay this. This is a good one. And I'm sure if you implement it correctly, you'll find that those stalled conversations will easily restart. I'm Mark McGuinness. Looking forward to catching you on some of my content floating around. Bye.